In November 2019, my wife and I came to do a reading with you. And I'm going to read you exactly what you said in 2019 and 2020. In
Okay.
November 2019, you read this, you said this to my wife and I verbatim. I've been hearing this a lot. Not that anything personally will happen, but brace yourselves for next year. It will be turbulent. He, meaning my father, who passed, doesn't mean personally, politically, country wise, world wise. He's about the 15th soul that cautioned us about that. It will be a very turbulent up and down year. Just wants to make sure either of you don't take it, you or your family, that is affecting you on a singular level. It's going to be a shithole here. In the US, the world, it's going to be a shithole. Have you heard that multiple times from different souls in 2019 about this particular year?
Yeah, it was, I believe the first time I heard it, if I'm not mistaken, was September 2019. A woman had come and her father came through. He had passed on. And he said that, brace yourself for 2020. It was going to be a mess, natural disasters, earthquakes, politics, health wise. I remember he swept his hand like this in front of me and said, across the board, everything you could think of. And I thought to myself, well, I don't want to say that to her, that, she would take it maybe affecting her. And he said, no, he says, you're all going to be affected.
Wow.
And he said he was glad he was over there because they wouldn't be affected by it at all naturally. So that was the first time I gave it out, and I had forgotten about it. And then afterwards, people who were coming to me for sessions, I was hearing it again and again and again, and it intensified more this year. Um, there were things that they were telling me that unfortunately I can't share with everybody. I
Of
can't share
course.
publicly.
Of course.
But they were telling me, and all I thought is, what the hell is going to happen? And if you recall, we've had the pandemic, number one. So many thousands have lost their lives. Um, People certainly in grief, as they had mentioned. We've had numerous earthquakes. I think we just had one the other day in Turkey, or
Hmm.
Turkey and Greece or something. And as the year began, they started, from over there, they started emphasizing that, a full force hasn't even started yet. And I was like, oh no. Um, but they did say that 2021, they didn't say it was going to be a banner year, but they did say it was going to be more hopeful
Okay.
and more quieted down and more soothing. But they said for us in the US, they said, the political scene was just going to be a disaster area, which I think it has been.
Yeah.
And, then other people's mothers or fathers or souls that had passed on, some of them really would get into it. And
Did they ever say it was a pandemic? Did you ever hear the soul say it was going to be the virus?
um, no, all I recall is they said a health situation.
Wow.
And I think the reason why they didn't say pandemic is because as a bubblehead, I probably wouldn't have known what they were talking. I would have said to myself, what the hell are they
Right.
talking about?
Right. Right.
And, you say pandemic, you think of the bubonic plague or something. And of course, that happened centuries ago. So I would think, like, they're off the wall over there.
Right.
So they just said health issues. And they said for the world across the board. And I really didn't understand what they were talking about, but they didn't, as far as I can recall, they didn't use the word virus, probably because I wouldn't have believed them.
Really.
And they didn't use the word pandemic because I wouldn't have
Right.
really comprehended. Like, what are you talking about?
Right.
A good example to back up what I just said was, I remember this family had come to me years ago, and their daughter came through, and she had passed away, and she said she had passed from drowning. And they seemed to understand, so okay, I kept going with it. And as it reached its peak, just said she had drowned and left it at that. And probably again, because I wouldn't have believed her, believed them, they had afterwards, they told me that her and her sister were in Africa, and they were going down some river or something, or on a lake or whatever. And I guess in Africa you call them crocodiles, had leapt into the canoe and pulled the one sister out into the water.
Oh my God.
And I know me, I wouldn't have believed it. I would have said, oh, this is horse manure.
Right.
But what intrigued me was why. I said, why didn't she mention the tragedy itself, what had happened? And then I realized crocodiles drown you before they eat you.
Oh my God.
And that's why she kept saying that the cause of her passing was from drowning. I just figured she had drowned in the ocean or something.
Right.
But when they told me that, I was taken aback. I'm always hypercritical of the ability and cynical. And I said, why wasn't that mentioned? That should have been said. But then I had to give myself the credit that, number one, I would not have believed it probably and said it was just horse manure. And secondly, somebody from over there said to me, well, what happens when a crocodile snags you? You see it on the documentaries in Africa. They drown the animal first.
Right.
And then they eat it. And I'm like, oh, that's why she said that was the cause of her death, that she had drowned.